What if China's lost civilization never truly disappeared, but survived inside mountains, underground armies, imperial courtyards, ancient water systems, and cities whose streets still follow plans created centuries ago? In this journey, we move beyond modern skylines to uncover a world where monks transformed movement into meditation. Emperors climbed sacred peaks to defend their right to rule, and entire communities built fortresses from earth. These places are not isolated ruins, but surviving pieces of a civilization that organized belief, warfare, water, family life, and political power through architecture on an almost unimaginable scale. Stay with us until the final ancient city and tell us which of these places still feels most alive today. Wudang Mountains, Hubei. The Wudang Mountains rise through Hubei in layers of forest, mist, stone stairways, and Taoist temples, creating a landscape where martial movement appears to grow from the same balance that governs clouds, water, and the changing seasons. The central story here is the transformation of combat into internal discipline, because traditions associated with Wudang emphasize breathing, balance, controlled movement, and awareness, rather than relying only on speed or physical force. Practitioners repeat slow forms until every shift of weight becomes deliberate, allowing the body to remain relaxed, while structure, timing, and concentration quietly generate power beneath the surface. Within temple courtyards and mountain paths, this method becomes closely connected with Taoist ideas of yielding, adaptation, and the belief that strength can be preserved by moving with pressure instead of resisting it directly. Legends link Wudang with Jiang Sanfeng and the development of internal martial arts, although history and folklore remain intertwined, making the mountain's influence more cultural and spiritual than something explained through one documented moment. Wudang endures because its deepest lesson is not how to defeat an opponent, but how repeated movement can reveal tension, impatience, and imbalance within the person performing it. Would you come to Wudang to learn martial arts, practice stillness, or discover whether the two are actually the same discipline? Shaolin Temple Henan. Shaolin Temple stands beneath Mount Song as one of the world's most recognizable symbols of Chinese martial arts. Yet its deeper story begins not with spectacular combat, but with the difficult practice of maintaining attention through repetition. The central idea is the union of Chan Buddhist discipline and physical training, where movements performed thousands of times could become a form of meditation as demanding as remaining motionless in a silent hall. A low stance held through discomfort forces the mind to confront impatience, while a sequence repeated before sunrise trains balance, breathing, timing, and concentration until conscious effort begins to disappear. The mountain environment strengthened that practice through cold winters, intense summers, steep paths, stone courtyards, and long periods of training without applause, competition, or any immediate reward. Popular culture often presents Shaolin through broken bricks, flying kicks, and astonishing physical control, but the more difficult achievement is restraint, the ability to possess strength without allowing anger or pride to command it. Shaolin survives as a reminder that the body can become a spiritual instrument and that mastery may begin only after a person stops training to impress others and starts confronting the limits within. Would you enter Shaolin seeking fighting skill, mental discipline, or control over the part of yourself that reacts without thinking? Mount Tai Shandong. Mount Tai rises through Chinese history as a sacred staircase where emperors, scholars, monks, and ordinary pilgrims climbed toward a summit believed to stand closer to the forces governing heaven, earth, and political legitimacy. The central story is the imperial Fang and Shan ceremonies, rare rituals through which selected rulers announced that their authority had been recognized not merely by armies or officials, but by the cosmic order itself. Reaching the summit required a demanding ascent through stone gates, steep stairways, changing weather, and long sections where cloud could hide the destination while leaving the climber exposed to wind and fatigue. At the top, sacrifice and proclamation transformed geography into political theater, allowing the age and permanence of the mountain to strengthen a dynasty whose human institutions remained vulnerable to rebellion, famine, and time. Thousands of inscriptions carved along the route later turned the mountain into an open archive, where official statements, poems, prayers, and personal reflections accumulated directly on the stone. Mount Tai reveals that imperial authority was never secured only by reaching the summit, but by convincing an entire civilization that the climb itself connected one ruler with the structure of the universe. Would you climb Mount Tai for the sunrise, the ancient inscriptions, or the chance to follow the same path once taken by emperors? Xi'an and the Terracotta Army Shangxi. Beneath the fields outside Xi'an, thousands of clay soldiers stand in ordered ranks, forming an underground army created to extend the authority of China's first emperor beyond the boundary of his death. The central story is standardized power made individual because the warriors were produced through organized workshops using repeated components, while craftsmen added different faces, hairstyles, armor, gestures, and expressions. This combination allowed an enormous force to be created efficiently without turning every figure into an identical copy, reflecting an empire that depended on uniform systems but still recognized visible ranks and specialized roles. Infantrymen, officers, archers, horses, and chariots were positioned as parts of a functioning military formation, transforming the burial complex into a controlled version of the world. Qin Shi Huang had unified above ground. Many figures were broken when the pits collapsed or were disturbed after the emperor's death, while their original colors faded rapidly after excavation, revealing how vulnerable the buried army became the moment it returned to the air. Xi'an's clay soldiers therefore preserve more than military history because they show a ruler attempting to defeat mortality through organization, labor, and an empire reconstructed one human-sized figure at a time. Which would draw your attention first, the scale of the army or the individual face of one soldier standing within it? The Great Wall of China, far from the restored sections crowded with visitors. The wild Great Wall crosses empty ridges as a fractured line of stone, brick, grass, and packed earth, with watchtowers slowly collapsing into the mountains they once guarded. The central story is the human cost of security, because the wall was never one heroic construction project, but a succession of defensive campaigns carried out by soldiers, laborers, prisoners, and villagers across many dynasties. Materials were hauled over steep terrain through summer heat, winter, snow, hunger, exhaustion, and isolation, while the completed fortifications demanded constant maintenance from people whose names rarely entered official histories. Although legends describing the wall as a vast burial ground are not supported literally by archaeology, they survived because the suffering, displacement, and death connected with its construction were undeniably real. On unrestored ridges, broken battlements, and long silences make imperial power appear temporary again, stripping away the polished surfaces that often separate modern visitors from the labor behind the monument. Here, the Great Wall becomes less a symbol of invincibility than a memorial to exhausted human hands, reminding us that every boundary admired from a distance was built by people working at ground level. Would you rather walk the famous restored wall or follow a forgotten section where the empire is slowly returning to the mountains? Longmen Grottoes, Hainan. Longmen Grottoes first appear as quiet limestone cliffs beside the Yi River, but as the camera moves closer, thousands of shadowed niches reveal an entire population of Buddhist figures watching from within the mountain. The central story is stone transformed into prayer, because generations of monks, rulers, donors, and anonymous artisans carved belief directly into the cliffs, instead of building a monument that could later be moved or replaced. More than 100,000 figures were created across centuries, ranging from images small enough to fit inside a hand to colossal guardians whose calm faces still dominate the river valley. Every robe fold, lowered eyelid, and faint smile records the movement of a tool against resistant rock, turning the site into the accumulated rhythm of countless lives devoted to the same sacred work. Many statues have lost hands, faces, or entire bodies through erosion, conflict, and removal. Yet those absences make the struggle between human memory and time more visible, rather than diminishing the site's power. Longmen endures because patient repetition achieved what no single ruler could command. It transformed a wall of stone into a silent civilization that continued long after the dynasties responsible for it disappeared. Which face would you search for first, the smallest hidden Buddha or the giant figure watching over the river? Dujiangyan Irrigation System, Sichuan. At Dujiangyan, the Min River is controlled without being stopped by a massive dam, making the ancient system appear less like a barrier against nature and more like a carefully negotiated agreement with moving water. The central story is division rather than obstruction, because engineers understood that the river's force could irrigate farmland and reduce flooding if its flow and sediment were redirected instead of trapped behind one wall. The fishmouth structure separates the river into inner and outer channels, guiding useful water toward the plains while allowing part of the flood volume to continue through the natural course. The flying sand weir helps release excess water and sediment, while the bottleneck channel carries a controlled flow through the mountain edge toward the agricultural lands around Chengdu. Because water continues moving, the system avoids many of the pressures created by complete blockage. Although generations of maintenance remain necessary to clear sediment and preserve the intended balance, Dujiangyan survives as a lesson in engineering humility, showing that one of history's most durable water systems succeeded not by overpowering a river, but by understanding where the river already wanted to go. Would you call Dujiangyan an ancient machine, a modified river, or a conversation between engineering and nature? Fujian Tulou, Fujian. Across the mountain valleys of Fujian, enormous circular and square earthen buildings rise like fortified villages compressed into a single structure, with thick outer walls protecting open courtyards and generations of families living inside. The central story is collective survival, because a Tulou was designed not as an isolated private home, but as a defensive community where food, worship, storage, work, and family life could continue behind one controlled entrance. Rammed earth walls provided thermal stability and resistance to attack, while the lower exterior often contained few windows, making the building appear closed and defensive when viewed from outside. Inside, repeated wooden galleries and rooms faced the shared courtyard, ensuring that daily life remained visible and that security depended on cooperation rather than on each household protecting itself separately. Families related through clan networks occupied different vertical sections, but wells, halls, celebrations, emergencies, and defensive duties belong to the community as a whole. The Tulou reveals an architectural idea almost opposite to the modern city. Individual families could remain distinct, yet survival was strongest when every household became part of one circular wall. Would living inside a Tulou feel secure and connected, or would the shared courtyard leave too little space for privacy? Lijiang Old Town, Yunnan. Lijiang Old Town appears as a maze of stone lanes, timber houses, bridges, and tiled roofs. But the true structure organizing the city is the network of water flowing quietly beside streets and beneath courtyards. The central story is water acting as an invisible city planner, because channels descending from springs north of the town were divided again and again to serve homes, markets, workshops, gardens, and public spaces. Instead of forcing the waterways into one monumental canal, builders allowed smaller streams to follow the natural slope, creating a flexible system in which the sound and movement of water remained present throughout daily life. Traditional shared wells separated different uses of water, with cleaner sections reserved for drinking and food before the flow continued toward washing and other household tasks. For the Naxi community, this network shaped routines as much as architecture did, connecting private courtyards with public streets while making water management a visible form of cooperation. Lijiang survives not because its buildings remained frozen in time, but because the old town still reveals how a city can grow around a living resource without hiding that resource beneath concrete. Subscribe for the next journey, and tell us whether you would explore Lijiang by following its stone streets or simply letting the water lead the way.